Welcome back to the channel, my friends. Warhammer Man Studios. I'm Warhammer Man, and today we're going to be talking about Combat Patrol. This video is sponsored by CMO Games. More on that later. So you guys know that I've been playing quite a bit of Combat Patrol this edition, and I've been having a ton of fun. It's really cool, it's fast-paced, and one of the best parts is, if it goes wrong real quick, you can just re-rack and play again, and it doesn't take all day. But the problem is, we don't have the full picture with Combat Patrol, and we've kind of been getting mixed messages, so the real question is, should we Combat Patrol now, or wait? Should we rush out and try to get all of the existing Combat Patrols and get ready for when they launch, when the new Codex comes out, so we have that army ready to go? Or should we wait and see what the new Combat Patrols are? Because that's what we've been seeing, is the factions have been getting new Combat Patrols. So before we get into what we should do in the future, let's take a look at what's already happened. So we've already seen the first two Combat Patrols that came out, and the first two new ones that came out were the Space Marines and Tyranids. So all the Combat Patrols are priced at $160, and here is the new Space Marine one. So the new Space Marine Combat Patrol basically comes with a Terminator Captain, a Terminator Librarian, a squad of 5 Terminators, and 5 Infernus Marines. So the new Terminator Librarian is $38. The new Terminator Captain is not actually available separately, so we'll just assume he's like $40. Call it 42 just to make it an even number. Infernus Marines aren't out yet, but any of the 10-man like regular squads are $60, so that's a 5-man squad, so $30 for them. So that's $110, and then the Terminators are $65. So that's $175 worth of models at like your basic retail price. And all these models are actually easy to build models, so that makes them a little less valuable than buying like the regular kits. And the Combat Patrol is only $160, so you're really not getting much of a deal. So as far as like actual value of the new Combat Patrol, at least the Space Marine one, it's really not that great, so I'm not sure it's a great idea to just rush out and buy it. Now that being said, there's a lot more factors than that. One, this Space Marine Combat Patrol is extremely good in game terms. I mean, really, really good. In small games, the Terminator armor is really hard to get through. When you attach the Librarian to the Terminator squad, they dish out a ton of extra firepower for shooting and then also in combat. And while you only have a few units, so it can be a little difficult to hold objectives, the Infernus Marines have basically like the objective secured ability, which means they can basically move off of an objective after controlling it, and it remains under your control. They also have a stratagem in Combat Patrol that's one command point that allows any of your other units to do the same thing for that single turn only. So you can basically land on an objective, take control of it, and then leave it behind, and it stays under your control without having to leave models on top of it. So the Space Marine Combat Patrol is really freaking good. So then we have the Tyranid Combat Patrol. The Tyranid Combat Patrol also came out right off the bat with the Leviathan launch, and it is really good as well. It's maybe not quite as good in game terms, but it's a really nice box set. Once again, it's all new models and they're push fit, and all of the models we've seen so far came in the Leviathan box set, so if you've already got that, you're even better off. But again, it's $160 and it comes with 20 termagants. Those termagants each include a Ripper Swarm, which are not shown in the pictures here, but if you were to go out and buy 2 squads of 10 termagants, you'd spend $90 just on them. It's led by the Tyranid Prime, and he's $40, so that's $130 for them total. And then we have the Von Ryan Leapers, which are $50, so that's $180. It comes with the Barb Gaunts, which are $45, so that's $225. And then on top of that, you get the Psychophage as well. He's not actually available for sale separately, but let's just say he's $50. So that's $275 worth of models for $160. So you're getting massive savings right here, as opposed to the Space Marine Combat Patrol, which was like $175 worth of models. And all the models in both sets are easy to build. So this one is a substantially better deal, even though the Space Marine one is probably the best in actual gameplay. But with all new models in both of them, it's hard to argue that they're not amazing. But because the Space Marine Combat Patrol isn't the best deal, and the Tyranid Combat Patrol is a really good deal, we should also pay attention to the Leviathan set, or in this case, the Ultimate Starter set. Because the Leviathan set included all of those models plus more and a rulebook. It's still available for around like $200 to $225, and it's probably the best box set and best savings Games Workshop has ever offered. But there's also another alternative out there that's not limited that you're going to be able to pick up even a couple years from now, and that is the Ultimate Starter set. The Ultimate Starter set is awesome because it literally has those 2 exact Combat Patrols we just looked at, which at $160 a piece retail is $320 worth of value, and it's only $210. So right off the bat, you're saving like 33%. It also comes with a core mini rulebook, which is the full rules, but just a smaller version of the actual book, which is awesome. A bunch of data cards, dice, and all that stuff. But it also comes with a bunch of terrain as well. So you're basically getting like $450 worth of stuff for about $210, which is half off. On top of that, you grab it from somebody like CMO Games and save another 15%, and you're spending like $170 on all of these models. the terrain, and the rules, which is a stunning deal. And then right off the bat, you have 2 combat patrols, which means you can play a ton of games. So while the Space Marine Combat Patrol isn't the best deal on its own, the Tyranid Combat Patrol is a really good deal. You're way better off buying either this Ultimate Starter Set or the Leviathan box, and I would definitely recommend either one of those. The main factor being whether you want all the extra models from Leviathan, which I would say you do, or if you really need some terrain, which is also good because these are cool pieces of terrain. So we've seen the Space Marine Combat Patrol, we've seen the Tyranid Combat Patrol, the 2 different ways that you can get all of that together for a really good deal, and the value inside of those. But both those are brand new and came out with a launch box set, and we've actually seen a couple of other combat patrols come out already as well. So let's take a look at the Codex roadmap so we can kind of see what Games Workshop has planned. So we already saw the Necrons come out and the Adeptus Mechanicus, and when the Necrons came out, actually they got a new combat patrol, but sort of got it in advance. It was a weird situation because the old combat patrol had a flyer in it, and flyers aren't necessarily the best thing for a small game. So Games Workshop discontinued the old combat patrol and didn't really talk about it and replaced it with a new one ahead of time. So when the actual Codex came out, it already had its new combat patrol waiting. And then the Adeptus Mechanicus had a really good old combat patrol, which went away, and then they replaced that one with a new combat patrol. So here's the Necron Combat Patrol, and again, this one is really good. A lot of the stuff from this box set came with the Indomitus box, and then they added in the big Doomstalker, and he hits really hard in small games. As a matter of fact, he's one of the ones that took out the Space Marine Combat Patrol, who's basically been undefeated when we've played about 20 games worth of Combat Patrol. Now that being said, the Space Marines still put a whooping on the Necrons most games. This one again is a nice deal. It's led by the Overlord, who is $38. You get 10 Necron Warriors and some Scarabs, which are $50, accompanied by the Scorpdeck Destroyers, which are $60. So that's $148. And then you add in the Canoptic Doomstalker, who's $50, and that's $198. So priced at $160, you're saving about $38, which isn't bad, but it's not that good compared to what the old combat patrols used to be. And the truth is, with the exception of the Tyranids so far, the new combat patrols aren't nearly as good value-wise as the old ones were. But there's 2 really important things when you're looking at a box set, especially when you're looking at a box that you're going to be playing with the models right out of it. Is it going to actually be good in gameplay, and are you saving a bunch of money by buying it? So we can look at the actual savings, but it's up to you whether or not you're going to have fun or enjoy playing that actual box set. I think the Necron box set is really fun, and it's also okay savings, but it's not amazing. Not nearly as good as the old combat patrols used to be. Next we have the Adeptus Mechanicus box set, and this one just came out and replaced the old one. The old combat patrol for Adeptus Mechanicus was really good, but this one's not bad, and it has a lot of newer models in it as well. Now I haven't actually played this one in game terms yet, so I can't really tell you how it plays on the tabletop. But price wise, it's led by the Manipulus for $40. You get 1 squad of the Skitarii Rangers, which are $55. You get the Sulfur Hounds, which are $60, so that's $155. And then the Taraxi Sterilizers, which are $60. So that's $215, and the box set is $160. So this one you save about $55 buying this box set, which is better than most, but not quite as good as the Tyranids. But if there's one thing we see for sure, it's that the value inside these combat patrols is not the same. Some of them are really good deals and lots of savings. Other ones like the Space Marines are almost no savings at all. Some of them are really strong like the Space Marines, and others might be fun, but just aren't going to be nearly as competitive. And that doesn't even take into account the fact that certain combat patrols are going to match up really well against other combat patrols, and other ones are going to be absolutely unbeatable. So going back over here to the Codex roadmap, we've seen what's already come. 4 different combat patrols, and they're all brand new. So I think it's safe to assume that when the new combat patrols come out with the new codexes, that they're going to be brand new as well. So should we rush out and buy the old combat patrols because they're really good deals, and it seems like the new ones aren't as good a deal? Or should we wait for the new ones to come out and then build those as we go so that we have all the different combat patrols to be able to play with? And to tell you the truth, I really don't know. I was going to try to get all the combat patrols, build them as the codexes come out over this edition, and then have them all to play with. But now that we see they're all getting replaced, I'm just not sure that's the best idea. So rather than try to get those combat patrols and get them all built and painted up before the codexes come out so we have them to play with, now I'm starting to wonder, do we want to pick them up to make sure we can get that good deal before they go away? So we know the next codex coming out is Dark Angels. So if we assume they're going to get a new combat patrol, that's the one we should be the most focused on right now. And the Dark Angels combat patrol has a chaplain, which is $40. It has half a squad of intercessors, which a big box is 10 for $60. So that's $30. It has 3 inceptors for $60. So that's $130. And then it has the Redemptor Dreadnought, which is $75. So that's $205. Now it also includes a Dark Angels upgrade frame. So that's like $220 total worth of models, and it's $160. So this one is a really good deal, and we know that most of the newer ones that are coming out aren't nearly as good a deal. This one is also really, really good in game terms. The Inceptors can drop in and shoot The chaplain can be attached to the intercessors and makes them stronger in combat. And then the Redemptor Dreadnought is almost unkillable in small games. He's got a ton of awesome firepower and hits extremely hard in combat. So he can shoot, he can fight, and he's super durable, which pretty much makes him unkillable in small games. And the best part is, this combat patrol and everything in it is actually really good in big 40k as well, so it's a great starting point. But the problem is, it's probably going to be going away, at least based on the trend that we've seen with the other combat patrols. So should we rush out and buy this one before it goes away? Honestly, I think the answer is yes. And realistically, if you were going to build a competitive Warhammer 40k army, you could basically buy 3 of the Dark Angels combat patrols and then fill out the army and then have 2,000 points that would actually be like really good right out of the box. Inceptors are awesome. You're probably going to want the plasma ones for bigger games, but some of the bolter ones are good. Intercessors are really strong and your basic troops. You're definitely not going to want 3 chaplains, but 3 Redemptor Dreadnoughts? Yes, please. Now a quick message from today's sponsor. CMO Games has been selling Games Workshop products online for over 20 years. They carry the full line of Games Workshop products, including Warhammer 40,000, Age of Sigmar, Necromunda, Blood Bowl, paint tools, and more. Almost all Games Workshop products are priced at 15% off MSRP. CMO Games takes pre-orders for most Games Workshop products released at their earliest date possible. 12:01 a.m. on Saturday, they go live. Most of these pre-order products are also priced at 15% off MSRP. CMO Games offer free shipping in the US 48 with an order of $50 or more. Their customer service is top-notch and they ship most orders within 24 hours. Visit CMOGames.com using the affiliate link in the description and let them know that you heard about CMO Games from Warhammer Man. Now back to the video. So assuming that after the Dark Angels, the Orcs are going to come next, let's take a look at that one. So there's 24 combat patrols in total, and we're not going to have a chance to take a look at all of them in this video. So we're going to wrap it up with the Orcs here and then try to come to a conclusion, at least short term, so we're prepared for what's to come. So the Orc combat patrol is led by the war boss in mega armor. He's $40. You get 20 of the new boys, which are $55 per 10. So that's 150 total. You get a Death Dread, which is $60. So that's 210. And then a unit of Death Coptas, which are $65. So that's $275. And again, the combat patrol is $160. So this one's almost as good as the Tyranid combat patrol and one of the best savings we've seen so far. As a matter of fact, we almost know for sure that this is going to go away because it's too good of a deal for Games Workshop to continue offering. So the Dark Angels one is a pretty good deal and we still have access to it. The Orcs one is an absolutely amazing deal and we still have access to that. So should we be rushing out to try to pick these up before they go away? I think if you're looking to play with them in actual game terms, probably not, because you're not going to be able to use these combat patrols, or maybe you are, but they're going to be replaced by new ones. So maybe you'd rather have those. But as far as the deals go, the Orc Combat Patrol is so amazing. It's a bunch of really good units and a bunch of really new sculpts. And we almost know for sure that when the new Combat Patrol comes out, it's not going to be $275 worth of models for $160. It's probably going to be closer to like $220, which means probably like the equivalence of one of these units is going away, at least in savings. And the Dark Angels one is really good composition. A bunch of new Dark Angel stuff is coming out, so the new Combat Patrol for the Dark Angels might be better in game terms, but it's probably not going to be as good in composition or savings. And there's still a bunch more to come. We know Custodes, Tau Empire, and Chaos Space Marines are coming. We don't know exactly when and in what order, but they've all got pretty good combat patrols as well. Matter of fact, we've played quite a few games with the Tau Empire Combat Patrol, and the Ghost Keel is super fun, and the Tau are definitely good. Maybe not the most competitive, but if you're strategic, they can win some games for sure. And the Adeptus Custodes Combat Patrol is so good that you don't even get to use all the models that come inside of it. You have to choose between your bikes or your Custodian Guard unit. And this one, again, $160. It's $60 for the bikes, $60 for the Custodian Guard, and then $60 each for your 2 squads of sisters. So that's $240 worth of models for $160. And the fact that you don't even get to use all those models in Combat Patrol, you have to pick between either the bikes or the Custodian Guard, tells you that realistically, Games Workshop is probably going to eliminate at least one of those units in the new box, but it's probably going to have different composition altogether. So we almost know for sure that this box is going to be going away, and the new box that replaces it is probably not going to be nearly as good. So I guess just kind of wrapping up here, the real question is, should we try to rush out and buy some of these combat patrols? Well, if you're trying to get ahead of the game and you want to paint them up and have them ready so you can play with them as soon as the new Codex comes out, it's probably not a great idea to rush out and buy them. Now, the only reason I was really doing that is I thought it would be fun if every time a new Codex came out, I had the combat patrol and we were able to play with them. And by the end of the edition, by the end of all the codexes coming out, we would have all 24 of the combat patrols painted up and played. But that's more of a novel idea. The real question is, should you rush out and buy them because they're not going to be available anymore and they're really good deals or they're really cool and you don't want to miss out? And I think the answer to that is, yeah, you probably should. It seems like all the new combat patrols that are coming out, with the exception of the Tyranids, aren't as good as the old ones. They're not as good a value. They're not as good a savings. It seems like you get either less models or less dollars. And Games Workshop's been raising the prices pretty regularly around like February or March every year. So who knows, maybe soon the combat patrols are going to be $175 instead of $160. So I guess it's going to be different for everybody, and my motivation was not really about the savings as much as just having them ready to go when the codexes came out, because I thought it would be fun to have them all ready to go and ready to play with. And most people aren't going to have that same motivation. But the fact of the matter is, it definitely seems like when the new combat patrols come out that they get at least slightly worse when it comes to savings. Now, it doesn't mean that they're going to be worse in gameplay because, for instance, the Space Marine one is the worst actual value, but the best actual combat patrol. I think so far, the ones that we played with, the second best one is the Dark Angels, and that one's actually like really cool models for big 40K as well. So this video is already long enough. I guess I just broke down like the main issues that I had, which is combat patrols are kind of getting to be worse value as the new ones come out. So if you do like any of the old ones, if you do want to grab up some of these deals, you might want to do it before they go out of stock and get replaced by the new ones. And because we know the Dark Angels are coming next, this one's probably going to be going away very soon. And then after that, it's probably going to be the orcs. And this one is a really good deal. So if you're after the orc combat patrol, definitely want to snag that one up before it's gone forever. So let me know what you guys think down below. Is anybody else even interested in Combat Patrol, or am I the only one that's been playing all these games? I've been having a ton of fun with it. I really like it. And the balance is pretty good overall. A lot of the stratagems and enhancements and stuff like that really help to balance it out. But the truth is, the Space Marines are a force to be reckoned with. It's really hard to deal with those Terminators, and for some armies, it's almost impossible. But if you're looking to get into 40K, if you've never played before, or you've been collecting for a while now and you haven't been playing lately, I really think Combat Patrol is an awesome way to actually get into the game and start playing. It's not a lot of models for most of them. The rules and equipment and everything is already set, so you don't have to worry about how you build your models, what equipment to give them, or any of those tough decisions that can sometimes give people analysis paralysis. And instead, you just build what's in the box and play some games. So let me know what you think down below. Always like to hear back from you guys in the comments. I think overall, I gotta say that if you want any of the combat patrols that are out now, pay attention to the actual Codex roadmap and make sure you grab them up before they're gone. As always, special thanks to CMO Games for sponsoring the video. Check them out to save 15% on Games Workshop products. That's it for today. Warhammer Man Studios, I'm Warhammer Man, and I love Combat Patrol. Maybe a little too much. And I'm out of here.